Hello there and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Equity Story. My name is David Malinowski, and today my guest is Marek Ostrowski. Hi, Marek.
Hello, thank you for having me. Great pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you in the studio with us. Marek is, well, what you can say, a very creative person, a serial entrepreneur, and a leader of two distinct yet very, very innovative businesses. And this is what we're going to discuss today. So I suppose before we properly kick off our discussion, we should start from the beginning, really. So, before you founded Prosoma 6 years ago, you've been involved in other projects, and you are still involved in them. So, for instance, Luxon LED, and to kind of put this all into context, you've got essentially 2 decades worth of experience as a business leader, as an entrepreneur, leading teams, advancing product lines, in different industries. So I suppose our viewers would be definitely very interested in learning about the sort of way that you had to go through. So how did you start from founding your businesses as small enterprises and then building them up with your friends and colleagues into national and then international enterprises with such reach. So if you could tell us about all these challenges, all these interesting aspects of your way, and also as a businessman, what you are proud of the most.
So thank you for this impressive summary. I really wouldn't thought that it's been already 2 decades. But yes, we started Luxon in 2007 or 2006 actually. This was I was still studying philosophy by that time, so being chief of research and development of the LED lighting company was quite a challenge.
Well, I was being a student, effectively.
Totally, and this was totally opportunity-driven business by that time. So we just happened to meet the owner of the German LED factory, and we decided, to just try to go and to see what we can do on the Polish market with this project, and if we can conquer the electric car market with our very limited resources by that time. There was totally no venture capital market in Poland in 2007. I think we were closing our first VC round in 2010 with the private business angel Christian Stypuła. And I believe by that time, this was 4% of the entire venture capital market investments in Poland. Nobody really knew how to draft contracts. Nobody knew how to, what's a drag along, tag along, what's a liquid preference, all those international VC standards that were completely unknown by that time in Poland. So I think from this perspective, I can say that I'm mostly proud of 2 things. One would be the team. That's definitely the most important part of each business. That's the team. That's the colleagues, the friends, the partners that you are surrounded by. And not only to build a relatively, let's say, big company, but also to go safely, to feel secured with the people who are taking this pathway with you, without having this impression that someone is trying to kick your legs and try to make it more difficult than necessary, or be jealous or be more competitive that actually it's necessary. So I believe that the most significant success for me is the fact that I built, or I was the part of the companies run by extremely innovative and honest, trustful people. And the second thing would be that we were really trailblazing the innovation in this country. And we were totally swimming against the current in both Luxon at the beginning and in Prosoma right now. And this still is a big challenge, but 10, 12 years ago, this was almost
bigger.
It was even bigger, and it was, incredibly difficult to find resources, to find people, and at the same time to find courage. I can say that we started Luxon, and the first money, the first salary that we received was in a fourth year of our operation. So it was really difficult. But yeah, I think these are the things that I'm mostly proud of. And the story is obviously, extremely funny. I was studying philosophy. The other guys were studying law or medicine or stuff like this. We had completely
very diverse,
very diverse, and also nothing really associated with business, right? So no experience, no knowledge, hardly no cash. So we literally started from zero, and from just manually assembling the lights in the basement. So like in the movies.
I was going to say, sorry obviously to interrupt you, but it does sound like a pretty decent movie that I would definitely, consider going to, and probably take my fiance with me.
Yeah, well, for this to be a happy ending movie, we still need to make at least, $1 billion company. So maybe we can meet in another 5 or 7 years, and hopefully, especially Luxon is going to be at this level, and then we can share this story with more details about the basement.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, from what I can hear, obviously, I mean, I knew that, obviously before this interview, that, the businesses that you have managed to build, are quite impressive, and they receive, numerous awards, by the likes of the Financial Times or Deloitte, etc. They were ranked, but to hear that, you basically started these now very, very impressive companies, proverbially, kind of speaking, with your mates during uni, with basically little cash and, no kind of know-how. You said in 2007, haven't you? So just right before the financial crisis hit. Yeah. That's what can I say? That's pretty impressive. So I suppose if we dive a bit deeper into that in a second. So I was going to say, we will dive into that a bit deeper in a second. But before that, I wanted to kind of, ride this experience stream of our discussion. So, clearly, you've gone past the sort of development stage. You built your team, assembled, your vision, your products, your everything, and the whole thing started to work and grow, develop. From a local business to a national business, then to a business that has an impact and crosses borders when it comes to its clients, its products, etc. So when you started doing business in other countries, which I believe you work with people and customers in the United Kingdom, in Germany as well, just to name some examples. What as a homegrown businessman here from Poland, what was the most interesting and, I suppose, peculiar or different that you found about doing businesses with these people from outside of Poland? Was there anything that kind of surprised you or shocked you when it comes to things like mentality of your clients, your stakeholders, or business attitudes, or even the business culture or the business environment, like tax, legal matters? Anything interesting, different, better, perhaps?
Yeah, well, we can divide this in two parts based on my experience. So the Luxon LED part is much more peculiar in the way that you ask, because we were doing business with China and Middle East. So
That sounds fun.
I was establishing our office in Shenzhen, that's just next to the Hong Kong border in China. So I lived there for some time, and this was also 2010, 12. Before smartphones, before online Google translators in the country that barely no one speaks English. So this was a huge adventure, probably the biggest business adventure of my life so far.
If you don't mind me asking, how long have you been there for?
Well, I think continuously, like my biggest trip was maybe for a couple of months, but I was visiting China 4 or 5 times a year.
So in and out.
Yeah, more like in and out. But enough to have friends, to have a girlfriend for some time even there, to travel around, to meet people, to do business. And this was truly amazing experience, not only to see how that country is growing rapidly, but also what kind of advanced production possibilities they offer, and advanced products, and how extremely workaholic they are. This was a great adventure and a great story. And another one was definitely the Middle East. So we started our branch in Kuwait, which spread to Dubai, Qatar, and all the countries around the bay. Eventually, it ended up with a spectacular disaster. So it turns out that we were basically cheated by the distributors. So they wanted to have our products because they were made in Europe. So they needed a European certificate.
Oh, sort of like a rubber stamp.
Yes. So basically it worked like this, that they were going to the big contractors and showing the partnership agreement and showing that the products
look, the guys that I work with, these are from the EU, that could be legitimate, amazing.
It's going to be high quality and so on. And then they were still buying everything from China and just putting our stickers on it, right, with our logo.
Well, it's pretty smart if you think about how they kind of worked it out. If it's honest, well, not really. So yeah.
Well, surprisingly, I was just not really, let's say, surprised or disappointed because I was kind of expecting that it's gonna be rough. I was treating this more as an adventure. I remember on my first visit to Kuwait, I took them to talk together to the Polish ambassador in Kuwait. And we had a very nice meeting. And at the end, I remember the ambassador took me on the side and he said, "Remember, prepayment only."
Really?
100% prepayment.
That is pretty telling in it.
That's the most valuable advice I can give to you. But we had our lessons, and right now Luxon is mostly working in the DACH region, so the European market, Western countries. It's growing stronger and stronger in Germany, especially right now when the electricity prices are so high. It's just scaling super rapidly right now, and the sales is growing extremely fast in that company because it's basically based on generating the electricity savings for industry. And this was the one part of international, let's say, adventures. The other one is with Prosoma, where we are working with more advanced markets, let's say more developed. So as you mentioned, mostly Germany, the UK, and the United States and Switzerland. And yet this is also a completely different market because this is very highly regulated medical devices market. So something completely different than industry, which was my daily bread 5 years ago. And coming back to your question, so what are the differences of, or what I can observe? Or I can see how it is changing. So I remember 10, 12 years ago when we were going to Germany as a Polish manufacturer, there was still a lot of stigma and stereotypes about Polish companies.
Okay.
And, you know, that
and you felt that? You felt
I
that
felt
way?
it, yeah. I still, you know, had a chance to experience that heritage from 90s or even 80s, 90s, before that, you know, okay, as long as it is just a simple assembling or manufacturing, we can do a business with you, but anything more advanced, right? And right now with Prosoma, you know, we are delivering a reimbursed medical devices for the German market. And I have never heard or even had an impression that anyone could, you know, look at me differently because we are, you know, from beside
Poland,
the eastern border. So that's definitely changing. That has changed dramatically for this 10 years.
So two key takeaways, I suppose. So on one hand, amazing wealth of experiences, very different experiences in different geographical locations. So, you know, obviously working here on our home turf, if you like, in Europe, you know, you mentioned DACH countries, which has changed over the years, but also another dimension of experiences which are just very different to anything that, you know, Polish homegrown business people doing only business here would ever know. So, you know, doing business in China, doing business in the Middle East, with all the, you know, amazing advantages, but also with all the possible associated risks. So, you know, I can see how and why you're obviously, you know, doing so terrifically well in terms of, you know, being an entrepreneur in terms of, you know, industry, so lightning, but also when it comes to Prosoma, so medical sector. You know, these are two quite distinct sectors, but it's the entrepreneurial kind of can do and, you know, we'll find a way out attitude that you must have developed over the years that is probably, you know, a massive aid here, isn't it?
Yeah, well, definitely.
As in, like, there's no problems you can't solve effectively.
Yeah, that's the attitude that we called in Luxon with a very simple words, which in Polish is da się. Which maybe you can translate like yes we can,
yeah,
or
of course. Yeah, no, I can definitely
be
like
done,
straight away see that off you, you know?
Very simple hashtag,
Yeah.
you know, da się. And as you know, this is the attitude that has to be followed by any entrepreneur in especially in the innovative markets. But I was just thinking that maybe the bitter perspective on this international cooperation was that all of those markets, including China, had much more drive for innovation than Poland.
Okay.
So even though it's also changing very fastly, I can say that it's not only about the adoption, but it's about the courage for creating something completely new. In Germany, in the US, in China, you know, those are countries where people are more used to really creating something that doesn't exist. In Poland, still the majority of innovation is just copying something that is already implemented,
but kind of improving
it. In the US. So it's working in the US. So maybe we can, you know, change it a little bit, improve it a little bit, and adopt it to the Polish or CEE market. And it's really difficult to find people with the mindset of true
entrepreneurship, you can call it, yes.
Yeah, you know, the trailblazing and the courage to think out of the box. So what you even though it's also changing.
So what you are saying is that, you know, again, coming back to the very beginning of our discussion, when you basically set out what it was like when you started in 2007, you didn't have, you know, any business background, you didn't have that much money, frankly, from what you said. The only thing that you really had were your brave and far-reaching ideas and the kind of vision that you have for your products, for what you wanted to do, which considering what resources you had, it was not balanced, but you had that vision. Whereas what you are saying, how I understand it at least, is that the problem in Poland, at least, is that people, perhaps they do have resources, they do have the necessary skills, maybe they even have the money, but they're not brave and not, they're not creative enough as they should be, not reaching for the stars effectively. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, maybe you're just simplifying this a little bit.
Okay.
So, well, first of all, it sounds very spectacular when you're saying that, we had this vision and, we were brave, which, from some perspective was true. But at the end, it was just, daily hard work, 12 hours a day. And it's extremely difficult to be, let's say, nourished on this way with the vision.
No,
I mean, at the beginning, sure, let's start, let's do something big, let's go for it, okay. And that it takes 3-6 months, and then either you get cash or you just need to find your source of energy somewhere else. And I think the great advantage of my team in Luxon was that we were just enjoying doing things, even without looking for spectacular results, just like doing daily business. And it's a funny thing, because my colleagues, my partners from Luxon, they were invited, I think, 2 or 3 years ago for an international conference to speak about the components of success of the startup.
Okay.
And they were saying about innovation, team, idea, and all of that. And I can just share, because maybe you can translate it into English better than I do. And they had this last component, which they showed on this huge screen in front of hundreds of people.
Sure.
And that's the component.
Component, okay. So it's like it's component zapierdalania. So essentially, basically doing your bloody job effectively, like working bloody hard.
Yeah, exactly.
That's brilliant.
So
it wasn't an English language based conference.
No, this was a Polish conference.
It was in Polish. So they didn't have to explain this anymore. What they actually meant.
I think it was understandable for everyone, especially for young entrepreneurs and founders, what components zapierdalania is. And you cannot underestimate it. I mean, this is going to be an extremely difficult and rough journey, and probably you are not going to succeed.
Yes, the sort of the numbers are against.
I mean, people. Like 1 out of 20, 50. Yeah. I mean, if everyone is dreaming to have an exit with at least 50 or 100 million coming to your pocket, that's 1 out of 1,000 probably, right? And all of those guys are smart. All of those guys, more or less know what they are doing. So, and there's a huge component just of luck.
Luck, yeah. But obviously, we can't really ascribe everything to luck, really. I mean, but then again, in terms of luck, well, you've mentioned in a few of your thoughts as we discussed this, that your team is a very important component of your success, be it at Prosoma or at Luxon. So, kind of coming back to, you and your team, you've been able to, assemble it, to pick the best and, most suitable people to help you with the whole journey. And lead them through, product development, through business development, all these stages of growing your business. And not just your team, but, from what I understand, also bring other people to the table. So, people like Cambridge, Cambridge University, Osram, Sebastian Kulczyk. So all these people who kind of looked at you and, the team that you assembled and the idea, the products that you have, and thought, well, okay, look, I mean, I'm very important, very busy, but at the same time, this is actually worth my time. So maybe that's the luck that we're talking about here as well. That you had all these resources, but you were also able to engage broader stakeholders into your projects.
Well,
how did that come about?
I think there are two different topics. So the first one is about the team, especially the founders team, and my most, I would say, valuable takeaway from founding all the companies. There was also another one called Tokyo, which was a fail in the way that we started the company. This was supposed to be a telemedicine, so like online platform for psychotherapy, also for doctors, eventually even the lawyers to consult with clients or patients online. In just 2016, the market was
a bit ahead of your time, I would imagine. Yeah,
3-4 years ahead. And if we managed to survive until the pandemic, the company would be probably right now be huge, right? So this is also a great lesson about timing.
I was going to say, yeah.
And this is a different topic, but just to say that the timing is really much more important than you think, because the window between being too late and being too early is extremely narrow, and you really need to keep that in mind when you are trying to start something up. But getting back to the team and being lucky also and assembling or attracting people around you. So the first takeaway is that you have to follow more values and competence. I mean, values and attitudes, not necessarily competence at certain point, right? So if you are, for example, thinking, okay, I should find a partner who will, join me on this journey for building a startup. You need to be sure that you guys are sharing the same values, that you have the same attitude. You are looking at the business development from the same angle, even if that guy or even you are not necessarily very well equipped with knowledge, competence, experience, and things like this, right?
So it's the values that should be shared, and then perhaps everything else can be taught or acquired.
Exactly. Values is something that you will not be able to change.
And
right?
of course, you can't teach people or kind of brainwash them into thinking no, it's not going to work, is it? So that's a pretty interesting comment in the sense that you can effectively take someone who is bright, but at the same time is very honest, and mold them into the employee or a partner with time that you want. But if you take someone who is really skilled, but perhaps doesn't see an eye to eye with you, it can be a source of clashes and disagreements, which will effectively collapse the business.
Totally, and I think the conflicts among the founders are one of the, I don't know, it's probably a third or fourth reason for startups to fail. So my idea, but this was our idea, all of my co-founders in both of those companies are independent leaders and independent founders. It's not like I am the one who is leading the team and telling everyone else what to do. In both of those companies, they are
So it's a committee as opposed to just one leader.
Yes, especially in Luxon, we were even like just randomly choosing who's going to be a president of the company, right? especially at the beginning. So this was about the team and about attracting people who believe in your vision of development. It's all about having a good story, and by saying good, I mean it has to be big, of course, but it has to be reasonable. And also it has to be based on the foundations that you both share, right? So for example, you mentioned few of our partners, but actually my main partner and my main advisor in the company is our common friend Wojtek Szczepaniak. And we started from the beginning, almost from the beginning of Prosoma, working together, and we knew from the first day that we share the same view on how to build business, on the medical market, on the goals that we want to reach together, and so on and so on. So this is how you attract people, with sharing the same attitudes, the same values, the same visions, right? And if you are just, spreading it, you will just, automatically find people that will fit your business, your ideas. And especially in Prosoma, we are extremely lucky to attract people who are very helpful and engaged in the project.
Oh, very good. And in terms of Wojciech, he's obviously a businessman with also, like yourself, a fantastic track record. So I can see how you guys saw eye to eye when it comes to many things. Coming back to the Luxon LED topic. You've mentioned that now with the energy bills going up and everything, kind of changing because of the current landscape. So not just the economic uncertainty, which is an international phenomenon, right? But also the whole situation that goes on to the east of our border with the energy security and energy sovereignty, implications of that, and the whole green energy drive and the whole reform on top of it. So a lot of moving puzzles, 3D puzzles almost. What is the main challenge for a business like yours, so lighting business? So what is the biggest issue or issues that you and your colleagues see, being a Polish manufacturer in this sector?
Well, honestly, I think this question is you should probably ask the board of Luxon right now, because they are struggling with daily challenges. I can obviously see many consequences on different levels. So starting from the supply chains and how is it changing, and a decade ago, or even 5-6 years ago, there was this strategy of offshoring everything, right? So
before COVID.
Before COVID.
Now we learned.
Now we learn. So all the big manufacturers in automotive industry, electrical market, they were just offshoring everything to the countries with the cheapest labor costs. Then there was a change. The COVID came, the supply chain disruptions, the war in Ukraine right now, and the first move was so we are going back onshoring, right? So we are trying to bring our businesses back to Germany, to France, overnight, which is obviously impossible, right? And now it's like, how about we try friend-shoring, right? So we will find countries who are, let's say, a bit cheaper in costs of production, in terms of cost production, but still, reliable and within our, let's say, circle of trust. So, for example, Poland, Bulgaria, Romania. And that's why right now we can see that, Poland is, I think, the biggest manufacturer for the batteries for electrical cars, as a result. So this is a big tide for a big positive tide for Luxon, that more and more companies are very positively looking for products that are manufactured in Poland, and obviously the rising energy prices for Prosoma. The current geopolitical situation is not, let's say, reflecting on any of our daily business, because
why wouldn't?
Yeah, it's purely digital, and it's very international. So we don't even have an office. We work in Berlin, in London, in Los Angeles, in Zurich. But the previous situation, the previous crisis, driven by the COVID, had huge impact on Prosoma business, right? And this was because of the rapid growth of digitalization of the medical sector.
Services, no, of course.
So suddenly it turned out that that's fine talking to the doctor online, or that's
FaceTime.
fine, using the app for different things. And the other big thing was the mental health crisis, which is still developing, you know. So the COVID resulted in a huge increase of depressive and anxiety disorders.
Of course.
And this obviously was a tailwind for businesses like Prosoma.
Yeah, no, I mean, even from my experience, I can tell you for nothing. I mean, it's probably fairly common that, I remember when COVID hit and I stayed at home for, I believe it was like 5 or 6 days straight with, I had some food supplies, everything, just, sitting there. There was nothing that I was missing. I've got, all the food that I wanted, all the sort of household, supplies, everything, a nice TV, a laptop, I could work remotely, right? But, after a few days, I could tell that the fact that I'm not leaving the flat and I'm not seeing people, not talking to anyone, it makes you depressed, and it makes you basically, in a way, mentally tired, that,
Totally.
you just don't want to do anything. You just,
we are social animals.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can definitely see how, a prolonged period of, not being able to socialize with people can definitely contribute to various mental health issues, problems, especially in the longer term after COVID. And in terms of Prosoma, in terms of oncology, I mean, I've mentioned to you my fiance, she's in her last year of med school. My father-in-law, he's an oncologist himself, and every now and then when they discuss the whole thing between themselves, or I get to hear things, essentially listening about osmosis, it strikes me, because oncology itself is a relatively new branch of medicine, isn't it? As in, relatively new. And as a result of that, there are numerous, advances and new studies, new research being published quite frequently, new breakthroughs. What I'm saying is we learn quite rapidly a lot about these problems and these issues. So is there anything, interesting that, you consider, for instance, a major breakthrough which has an impact on your business that, has recently happened? Anything of that sort?
Well, I'm not an oncologist. I'm a psychotherapist by background and psychoncology. So I used to work with cancer patients on face-to-face psychological interventions. I can definitely say that the oncology market is developing, and right now it is the biggest market, it's the biggest part of medicine worldwide. Currently, there is a big shift in the golden standards of treatment towards immunotherapy. So the drugs who are actually helping your immune system to attack,
The cancer cells.
to treat in a way, right? To kill cancer cells with the method that is called the monoclonal antibodies, and that's a big change, and that's a big thing. And that's also potentially very interesting for companies like Prosoma, because our effectiveness of our immune system is very strongly associated to the level of stress that we have. So basically, if you are in a prolonged high stress, high level of hormones and neurotransmitters like cortisol, adrenaline,
It makes you more susceptible to cancers, or
well, that's a far-going statement, but it basically suppress your immune system.
okay,
Right. So if you have a high level of cortisol, for example, you will have a lower level of white blood cells, putting this on a very simple way. So all the products, the behavioral products, the psychotherapeutical products that help you to manage stress, to manage anxiety, to keep you in the balance, let's say emotional, but on the levels of your hormones and neurotransmitters as well, will have positive impact on the treatment, on the conventional treatment. And this is part of the huge shift of the paradigm in medicine that we are right now observing, going into a comprehensive psychosomatic view, perspective of the patient, the holistic approach, which is shared more and more also in big pharma companies, among doctors, among the clinics or different stakeholders, and that's the part of the perspective that we are rooted the mostly, right? And to be aware that it's not only about okay, I'm in a high anxiety, so I will do some exercises and meditate and focus on my breath, and okay, I will feel a bit better. Obviously you will, but that's a very longer story of what you can do with your mental health and how you can influence your somatic body, your
hormones and everything.
Yeah, the hormones, the immune system, the neurotransmitters, the tension in your body that is influencing the adoption of conventional drugs, right? So in the long term, we will like to show also on clinical studies that using psycho-oncological products like Prosoma have a direct impact on the effectiveness on your treatment in cancer.
Of the actual meds that it basically supplements, if you like, and supports, let's put it in more lay terms, digestion of the meds that one takes.
The effectiveness, right? Especially the meds that are in a way associated to your natural body response for cancer cells.
Marek, I suppose one last question, and kind of a broader one in terms of the whole market, the whole region here in CEE. I know we've touched upon the fact that people could be a bit more creative, a bit more brave here in Poland when it comes to the ideas and the execution, and perhaps try to invent new things as opposed to copying and improving, if you like, what already exists on different markets. But do you think that as a region, because obviously you worked in different geographical locations yourself, as a region here in CEE, so I'm talking about Poland, I'm talking about Czech Republic, Slovakia, Romania, etc. Do we have what it takes to actually establish and nurture and build startups which will become later, with time and investment, these large companies which have the ability to project, let's call it, business influence or commercial influence across borders? Do you think we have that potential in this region?
Well,
or if not, what is it that we lack?
Well, I can always say that we lack of money, which is, partly true. If you compare the average, seed financing rounds in Poland and in Switzerland, for example, that's probably 5 times more, right? But that's one thing, and I wouldn't say that's a deal breaker. I think we really, and it's not also about brave or courage of going international or trying to follow your intuition for innovation. It's about the habits. It's about the mental habits of how do we look at different challenges. And the habits can be only created if you have numerous continuous examples of success, right? So, if I had 8 friends who succeeded in exiting from their businesses, I would just have, and I would be working with them, I would just have different mental habits of how to build that kind of business, that kind of startup, and this, entrepreneurship approach on
help them effectively.
Yes, and this would be adopted to all of what I'm doing, right? And I honestly have maybe only, 2 or 3 people that I know who were successful in startups business, right? So I think we really suffer on lack of good examples.
So role models effectively are needed.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
That's the one thing. And the other thing is, especially in Poland, the problem is that this country is big enough to make a reasonably moderate business, but let's say a profitable business, right? So if, for example, you come from Estonia or even Czech Republic, you understand from day one that you need to go international because you will never make a big business in a 5 million people country.
Yeah, right? There's not enough market for you to make a splash
on anything, right? No matter if it's medical or industry or whatever, right? Yeah. So you understand from the beginning that you have to go international, right? Poland is, and on the other hand, if you are in the US or even in Germany, the market is big enough to make $1 billion company only on the domestic market.
It's a different market effectively. It's more mature. It's just...
Yes, but I mean that you don't need to have this drive for going international if you are in the US.
In the right market.
Because it's so big that you will make $1 billion company only in the US, right? And Poland is in the middle. So it's, big enough to make a moderate business, so you don't have this drive for going international from the beginning, but on the other hand, is still too small to make $1 billion company.
I see.
Right?
I see. So it's this unhappy middle, effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, like in a way. So I would say that we need to have much more pressure. We need to put more pressure on those startups to understand that they have to go international.
To get out there, so not just to be content, if you like, with a success, however one wants to describe it, on the domestic market and just kind of accept and kind of like, yeah, sure, that's great, but to have that drive to go, take it a step further after you reach that national stage. Become a national champion to, advance the business, or even before that.
Before that, I would say don't wait until you are a national champ. Just do it simultaneously, right? Try to go international from the beginning, and fortunately, right now there is more and more people who can be set as an example, and we got businesses like Booksy and Stefan Batory. On my field there is Infermedica with Piotrek Orzechowski. and more people who have big rounds, big valuations, go international, succeed, and it's truly great.
Excellent, excellent stuff. Well, I suppose that's all what we have in for today. And there's one takeaway from the discussion that we have that you would want our viewers to kind of remember and preserve with them and keep to themselves. What would it be in 1 or 2 sentences?
Maybe that's what I should ask you, actually. What would be a takeaway from you from what I said?
I suppose it would be to have a vision, be brave, but at the same time be reasonable about it, be methodical in your approach, get the right people on your team. The right people, not just who are skilled, but with whom you could trust. That would be my takeaway.
I couldn't put it better, so I think we can agree on this one.
Excellent stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, Marek Ostrowski.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and see you next week.